fact, white chocolate is not a chocolate. In the intricate world of confectionery, there is a sweet debate that has long perplexed chocolate lovers and purists alike. It concerns a creamy, ivory-colored treat adored by some, scorned by others, and yet surrounded by mystery and misunderstanding. This is the story of white chocolate, a confection that, despite its name, isn't technically chocolate at all. To understand why, we must delve into the very nature of chocolate itself, explore its origins, and unravel the scientific and culinary truths that define what can and cannot be called chocolate. Our journey begins deep in the humid rainforests of Central and South America, where the cacao tree first thrived thousands of years ago. It was here, among the ancient Olmecs, Mayans, and Aztecs, that the seeds of the cacao pod were revered, not for the creamy sweetness we associate with chocolate today, but for their bitter, complex flavors. The beans were ground into a thick, frothy beverage, often mixed with spices or honey, and consumed as a sacred elixir. This chocolatl, as it was called by the Aztecs, bore little resemblance to the bars and truffles of the modern era, but it did contain the key element that makes chocolate what it is, the cacao bean. The cacao bean itself is composed of several components: cocoa solids, cocoa butter, and a variety of naturally occurring compounds like theobromine and caffeine. It is these cocoa solids, with their deep, intense flavors and dark color, that are most associated with what we think of as chocolate. When these solids are separated from the fatty cocoa butter, they are ground and processed to make dark chocolate or milk chocolate, which combine these solids with sugar and milk powder to create the varieties we know so well. But what happens when you remove those all-important cocoa solids? To uncover the answer, we must look at the process by which white chocolate is made. Unlike its darker counterparts, white chocolate contains no cocoa solids at all. Instead, it is composed primarily of cocoa butter, which is the fat extracted from the cacao bean, along with sugar, milk, and sometimes vanilla or other flavorings. Without the cocoa solids, the substance we call white chocolate lacks the brown hue, the characteristic bitterness, and the complex flavor profile that defines chocolate as most people know it. And this, ultimately, is where the controversy lies. The absence of cocoa solids means that white chocolate does not contain the same concentrations of flavonoids, those antioxidant-rich compounds found in dark chocolate, nor does it offer the same levels of theobromine and caffeine, which contribute to chocolate's unique stimulating effects. Essentially, what we know as white chocolate is a confection made from the byproduct of chocolate production, rather than the chocolate itself. This has led to a debate among chocolatiers, confectioners, and regulators. Should white chocolate even be considered chocolate at all? The legal definition of chocolate varies around the world, and it is here that we encounter another layer to this complex narrative. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, requires that white chocolate contain at least 20% cocoa butter, 14% milk solids, and no more than 55% sugar. It is this minimum requirement for cocoa butter content that allows white chocolate to retain its designation as chocolate, even though it lacks cocoa solids. In Europe, similar standards apply, although the percentages can vary slightly from country to country. For many purists, however, these standards are seen as a technicality rather than a true reflection of what chocolate should be. For much of its history, white chocolate was not even recognized as a distinct confection. In fact, its rise to popularity is a relatively recent development in the grand timeline of chocolate history. The first documented production of white chocolate occurred in Switzerland in the 1930s, when the Nestlé company used cocoa butter left over from the manufacture of milk chocolate to create a new kind of treat. The creamy, pale substance was sweet and smooth, appealing particularly to children and those who found the bitter taste of dark chocolate too intense. At first, white chocolate was marketed primarily as a novelty, a byproduct of chocolate production given a second life as a sweet treat. It wasn't until the late 20th century that white chocolate began to gain a more prominent place in the world of sweets. Driven by marketing and innovation in the chocolate industry, as well as the increasing popularity of gourmet confections, white chocolate found a foothold among pastry chefs and chocolatiers, who began to explore its unique properties. Its pale color made it a perfect canvas for creating visually stunning desserts, and its creamy texture provided a contrast to the richness of traditional dark and milk chocolates. However, despite its growing popularity, white chocolate continued to face skepticism and even disdain from chocolate purists. The reason for this disdain lies not only in its lack of cocoa solids, but also in the quality of the ingredients used in mass-market white chocolate products. Many commercial brands use less cocoa butter and substitute it with cheaper vegetable fats, which compromises the taste and texture. These lower-quality products reinforce the perception of white chocolate as an inferior, overly sweet version of the real thing. However, high-quality white chocolate, made with pure cocoa butter and minimal additives, offers a nuanced flavor that can be appreciated for its own qualities, notes of cream, vanilla, and subtle floral undertones. In recent years, the culinary world has seen a resurgence of appreciation for white chocolate, with artisan chocolatiers and pastry chefs elevating it to a level that rivals its darker relatives. The trend toward bean-to-bar production, which emphasizes the quality and origin of cacao, has also reached white chocolate. Some artisans now experiment with single-origin cocoa butter, incorporating natural flavors from different regions and refining the texture to create a more sophisticated white chocolate experience. This newfound respect has even led some to reconsider whether white chocolate deserves to be judged on its own terms, rather than as a lesser form of chocolate. Nevertheless, the fundamental question remains, can we truly call something chocolate if it lacks the very ingredient that defines the essence of chocolate itself? The debate, it seems, is as much about language and cultural perception as it is about chemistry. What makes chocolate chocolate is not simply its ingredients, but also the history, tradition, and passion that surround this beloved food. And so, as we savor a piece of white chocolate, we are not merely tasting a sweet treat but experiencing the ongoing evolution of a confection that continues to provoke questions, challenge assumptions, and redefine what it means to be chocolate. Whether you see it as a decadent indulgence or a pretender to the throne, white chocolate's story reminds us that in the world of sweets, just as in life, definitions are not always so black and white. In the end, the debate over white chocolate is not just about technicalities or taste. It is a conversation about tradition, innovation, and the ever-changing landscape of culinary art. And while it may not fit the strictest definition of chocolate, white chocolate has nonetheless carved out its own place in the confectionery world, a place where, despite the debate, it will continue to delight and divide chocolate lovers for generations to come.